What's good, everybody? Look, y'all know who I am. I go by the name of Gabriel Ori, and this is my co-host business partner.
Cheers. JR, what's up, y'all?
JR, hey, the man, the myth, the legend. Look, JR just came back from a out-of-country experience. JR, you want to elaborate on your little experience, man? How was that?
I'll just tell you this, man. I'm still not here. I'm still in Aruba. That's how great it was. Yo, man, it was fantastic, man. There's no words. It's like paradise. I felt like I was in heaven. And the way they treated us,
Nice.
Man, it was like no comparison.
You felt like a king?
Oh yeah.
You felt like a king?
Oh yeah.
So what does that mean for the US of A?
Well, I'll keep it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend I heard what you said because it froze up for just a minute. But listen, y'all, we're back. You know, this is Ask a Producer. Y'all know how we like to do. Look, share this video. We have a very special guest backstage with us. And before we bring him on, you know how we do. This is a Good Friday, Freedom Friday. Fridays are the days that we do our thing. I had a good Friday. The baby girl's in daycare right now, which is good and good. I don't see, I don't see any bad with that. So I've been kind of like doing a lot, you know. But listen, I want y'all to share this video, like I said before. Tag a producer, tag a musician, tag an entrepreneur, tag anybody that you know that's very creative, because we have a very creative guy on backstage. Look, he hails from the great city of the Goose Creek. Right, we got Goose Creek, Berkeley County in the building. He's a living legend, right? Local legend out here in the Charleston and surrounding areas, right? And before I go on, you know what? I'm gonna shut my mouth. I'm gonna let him do the talking. So we have the one. There's no other one like this person. The only, right? Mr. Rodrick Simmons.
What's up? What's
up, family?
I'm good, man. How are y'all?
Man, all is well.
I can tell. Aruba. That's what I really want to talk about.
Hey, that's what we want to talk about, yo. Aruba. Fun in the sun. So listen, man, Rodrick, look, First of all, thank you for coming on this platform with us, man. We know you could have been anywhere else in the world, brother, but you're here with us rocking, and we know our platform is going to appreciate that. But I know I gave you a little soft introduction, but why don't you introduce yourself to our platform?
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite for sure. Always good to rock with people you love. Who am I? Rodrick, cliche. People call me right now is Bingichi. That's my brand. But I'm Rodrick Simmons. I'm from Goose Creek, born and raised. Time in North Carolina as well. But man, I'm a creative at heart. Just a country boy, musician, of course. Grew up in church. That was my early upbringings, and I still find myself there. But yeah, that's how I see me. So if you ask specific things, of course I answer them.
Nice.
That's all it is.
So look, man. So I know I got introduced to you through JR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all family, y'all cousins.
Absolutely.
And I told JR, like, man,
a real cousin. You know, everybody
say,
we related. It's my real family.
Yo, and it's like everybody in y'all family like either dabble into like music and very good at it, or like construction and building buildings and things like that. So how is it? I mean, y'all have a very good mixture or of good talents and gifts. So how is it for you, growing up, with the music side of things? Because obviously that's what you're drawn to.
And this is gonna be funny probably for JR because we haven't talked about this, but growing up musically, Calvary Church of God in Christ, right there in Goose Creek. That's where I got most of my musical upbringing. And my father had me into quartet music. We had a male chorus, but like he got me into the actual groups like the Pilgrim Jubilees, and who I'm still heavily influenced by, Mighty Clouds of Joy, Joe LeGun. But then my mom, she really was into the choir side of things. But growing up, man, JR was playing, we both was playing at church. Everybody wanted to uh, play what JR was doing.
Man, stop.
That's for real, for real. He started on drums, and we
Yeah.
all wanted to, like, everybody wanted to be the drummer back then,
Yeah.
And
That was the
JR had
number
that
one
spot
spot.
though. You had the number one spot. After Corey left, it was you.
Right.
And then we both kind of like started. I believe, as I remember it, we both started like dabbling with keys, but he was better for sure. And so just looking at him do it, we would have, it's the Church of God in Christ. So if you know anything
Yeah.
about Kojic,
Yeah.
Mother Rivers was heavy in the Kojic, in the system of things. So we would have all kind of Christian celebrities come through. People
Mm.
like the Clark sisters.
Wow.
Just to give you one story,
Yeah.
just to sum everything up. There was one time that Twinkie Clark, who's my absolute favorite, she came in and I had the opportunity to play my keyboard with her while she was on the organ. Nervous out of my mind. But she was giving me looks of just confidence boosters, like not the like you doing good, more like, oh, for real. And I'm like 10, 11 years old at this time. You remember that around that time?
Man, that's been some years ago, man. You making me
You
do a
you don't
dabble back.
recall.
but
It meant a lot to me. That's
yeah,
probably why I remember it.
I'm glad you brought that up because it
You was
made
gonna
me.
say?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought all that up because it made me think of how many musicians came out of Calvary, man. And not just musicians, just singers too. I think about you, Bernard, Mark, Robbie, who else? Corey, um, what's Ivan, um, King,
Jesus.
bro. It was so much. Even my aunt Thelma. I mean, just it was so many musicians. Just everybody in that one area. Tony playing the guitar, So it was a whole bunch of us, and it was like a, 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 a family affair.
Absolutely.
And of course, everybody got older and have life. Things happen, and
You would look at it like that
we in
because you
different
had the
areas.
number one spot, though. I looked at it a little differently.
I can't. I never thought I had it. I always
Hey,
wanted to be chasing after Corey and you guys.
Yeah, Corey definitely had the number one spot, but I think that after he kind of left, I don't remember what exactly he went to do. But I just remember you being on drums, and because we were closer in age, that I really admired you for that.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And so
Wow.
just like all of us coming up and kind of doing it, although we were together, we had our individual approaches and things that we were doing.
Yeah.
Even Melissa, you remember
Right.
Melissa used to play too.
There you go.
Man, it was just a birthing place, and I didn't recognize the magic that was there until years later, of course. But
Right.
what do
it was
Right. Until
what
you
do
look
you
back
think
at it.
about
Yeah.
that? What do you think about like you said, there's so many musicians in your church, at least at that time, and it seems like it was a birthing place for people to just like, hey, like you said, hey man, Corey had the number one spot. I'm trying to get for that spot. So it's like it makes you work that much harder, right? To try to bring your level up to the Coreys or whoever you feel is up there, not to compete with them, but just to bring your level of hunger, skill, thirst up for that. How important do you think, Rodrick, that is for people to kind of boost people's morale in that way? And do we still have that type of spirit amongst musicians today?
oh man, for me personally, it's always been a level of competition. It's always been that, even if I'm competing against myself.
Mm,
But when you got to understand what I mean, when I said I was looking at JR had the skill set. Corey Washington, he had the skill set that I didn't have. You
mm,
know what I'm saying? I think that what my testament is, my story, how I see things is people always notice potential in me. But I wasn't an executor. They were executing. That's why they had them spots, you know. For everyone
Yeah.
else, and to be honest, to your question, it can be a motivator, but it can also discourage you. Me personally, I let the discouragement turn into a motivator, you know, because here's somebody who's doing something that I want to do, and I might not know how to articulate and ask the question, how did you get there? What are your practices? We just start speaking in ways where we understand each other, really, because our vernacular and our slang, a lot of unsaid is understood, you know, but really to understand the processes of things, we didn't have that back then. And so you know, he was big cousin, so I was like, dang, that guy can play. But in my quiet times, it made me push harder because I seen that it was obtainable to someone that's that close to me, you know.
Right, right. And I think that's the answer that I'll choose to keep,
Heard
because
you.
because he's so close to you, and it's important to have people, especially if you're trying to go down a path like that, get around people who are where you want to go. I would say it
Right,
that way.
Yeah.
And
right.
Yeah.
and glean from that, right? And use the, like you said, Roderick, it could be a discourager, but use that as fire or fuel to
Sure.
motivate you to get to that, because you said it's obtainable because he's so close to
Absolutely.
me. Hey, if he could do it,
Mm-hmm.
we both
Right.
got 10, you know, 2 hands, 5 feet.
Yeah.
Hey, if he could do it, surely I can do it. But like you said, some people don't like to ask the questions,
Or
or
know how.
know how to ask those questions. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. I think the older you get, sometimes the further away you get from not even the know-how. Like, I ain't doing that because it's gonna make me look like, you know what I'm saying, less than,
Yeah.
or I'm nobody. And like you said, Roger, it could be a big discourager too. But we want y'all to flip that for encouragement, you know. So now listen, now of course you brought all of that up.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't around doing none of those times. So like I happened to come along when you were executing. So you wouldn't trying
It
to,
still is executed.
yeah, you wouldn't aspiring to get, like, you had your own thing going on. And so when I met you, I'm just like, wow, who is this guy? Oh, that's my cousin Rodrick. Like, wow, this dude is on another level, right? So now I want to ask, so you were 10, around 10, you said you played with Twinkie, you had an opportunity to get on the keys. How old were you when you started your key journey?
That's the
Keyboard.
thing. So I started drum. My mother just recently told me that I had numbers wrong. And so I thought I started like 6 or 7 years old. She said I've been playing on pots and pans since I was able to hold sticks or hangers or whatever. She also told me that I've been playing like drums, at least them allowing me to, since I was like 5 or 6 years old.
Mm,
Right. Whenever JR wasn't around, or Corey. But
Hey.
as far as keys though, seriously speaking, it was about 10 years old. My mother played keys a little bit. She had a keyboard, but I really got uh, the gist of it by going to Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee. I would go visit my cousin Jonathan Brown. And that is who I going to have taught me and given me my start.
mm,
Um, because of his sternness and how strict he was, like a grown man. And he's just 5 months older than me, you know, but like he would hit me when I make mistakes and stuff like that. Stuff that's not healthy, but it worked. um, yeah, man. And honestly, I appreciate everything y'all saying as compliments to what I do, but me stop trying to do the thing of be like my cousins or anybody that knows. That's when I really developed and I saw like the snowball effect. When
mm,
I start just really honing in on whatever ideas I have. And I realized early on, without knowing what the thing was, I realized I had a lot of creativity.
mm.
And it was weird. It was a lot of weird energy because it's different. You got to imagine being that young and authentically being different. You know what I'm saying? It's a lonely path. And so I just doubled down on it because I liked the results I was getting. So when I realized I didn't have to measure myself to whatever's next to me, I didn't have these words then. I just know this now that this was the sentiments I had. I didn't have to compare myself to the next person. Just me, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Wow.
go ahead,
See,
Jr. Go ahead.
but I just want to let the world. I just want to let the world know Roderick is being modest right now, but Roderick is that guy. I was always looking up to Roderick, especially when he came back, when they moved back home from North Carolina. I think I was living in North Carolina at the time,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
That's the
y'all moved
part you
back
got
home
right.
because at the time, because at the time we used to listen to cassette tapes, and I would hear
Yeah.
him play a lot of James Hall songs. And when I heard those chords, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this because I was playing basketball and doing music too. And most of the times basketball would take most of my time away from music. And when I would hear him and
See,
Sonny,
we about to
that's
go now.
that that would
I'm
motivate me to
sorry, I ain't
continue
mean to cut
practicing.
you off, but you was
Y'all
nice on
two
the court too. Couldn't hold him on the court neither. You know, that was actually that was not attainable. You know, I was better off in the music, and I thought I had a nice little. I mean, when I was young, I was in the newspaper for dribbling in the park. All right, I would go to JR's house, him and Greg, and everybody from the block. You know what I mean? Getting smoked.
But listen, Roderick, you did say something that was, I think, that separates groups from individuals. You said, hey, at a certain point, I kind of realized that certain things I was doing, I liked it. Like it didn't
Yeah.
matter who else. I liked
Mm.
it. It was creative for me. And I think it probably started challenging you to do more and to carve your own lane, maybe your own technique, your own sound. And I think that's the difference right there. That's the separator. And that's the thing that I feel a lot of people, it's good to use somebody else as a milestone or something like that to just like, yo, man, I like that. I like your approach. I like your style. At some point, you need to carve out who you are, whether it's
Well, you're
musically,
right.
whether whatever it is, because like even as being a kid, right? You're your father's son, right? Um, at
Mm.
some point, you can't always be in your father's shadow. Like my son, right? That was something that happened with us. I play music. I'm really musically inclined, and he is too.
Mm.
But for him, he didn't like the fact that it seemed like other people that came in, oh man, you just like your daddy. Oh, such, and he didn't want to be like me. And so for
Yeah.
those reasons, he walked away from music. And it was nothing that I did or said, but I'm just saying at some point, I guess my point is you you should always want to have your own identity in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. And I will say
Yeah.
this once
Absolutely.
again, we're talking now. This is no in no way could I have articulated while it was happening.
Mm.
But I at that young age, man, I felt like I had a superpower that I couldn't share with the world because what everybody else saw as potential, it was actually what I was sorting through, and I couldn't exactly execute an idea fully, but I thought I was at that time. And so as you see growth, there's one part of me that never grew because maybe it was ahead of my time, and I still don't feel like that part of me grew because I just always had it. You know what I'm saying? And I spent more time on executing the ideas, that kind of thing, cleaning them up so that they're relatable and understandable. So
That sound
I
like that's. Oh, sorry. Go
last
ahead.
thing I was
Sorry.
gonna say about it is I feel like that in that individual journeys, like whoever it is, like it doesn't matter if people don't understand where you are. If you feel something there, like it it might be your best interest to develop it, spend more time on it. Like I'm telling you, I thought I had a superpower. Like I couldn't explain it. I still can't in ways. Um, but the only way that I can relate to it now is it was creativity, like
Mm.
just being creative. And you have to have a sense of bravery and confidence to want to build it and, you know what I'm saying, constructively develop more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
It
difficult.
almost, yeah, but it makes sense because it also it reminds me of working out. If you're a bodybuilder or you like to work out and you notice there's a weak area in your body, so you work that muscle until you see improvement. And the same thing with your creativity. You saw a weak spot and you wanted to continue working it until you saw it, and then you saw how good it was. And you just kept building it, and it just kept growing. So good point, man. Good point.
Nice. And speaking of working out, we're gonna work out this little break that we're gonna have. We're gonna take a quick break, but listen, when we get back, we're gonna talk about the producer side of Mr. Rodrick, some of the people that he's worked with, artists, and some of the things that he's doing and what he's getting into. All when we come back, y'all. Ask a producer.
Steady as a river that never runs dry. Certain as a sunrise that brightens the sky. You chase away. I'm losing faith. What's left to say when I feel like you've left me? You tell me you love me when I feel like I'm losing. You've proven it doesn't go.
And we're back. So listen, if y'all were sitting under a rock or something like that, we are rocking here with our guy, Mr. Rodrick Simmons. And listen, before the break, you know, he was talking about his early upcomings, his everything he was doing. He was aspiring to be like his cousins and things like that, but he carved out a niche for himself. And so, Rodrick, now listen, I know that you do production work too, and you work with a lot of artists. But before we jump into some of these big known artists, there was a local guy here in Charleston, North Charleston, and this is how I got introduced to some of your production. A guy by the name of Soldier, we call him Soldier Domain. Shout out to Soldier. And we was in the studio with him, and he said, "Hey guys, I got this beat, but you know, I needed for it to kind of be redone." And we listened to the beat. I'm like, "Yo, man, who did this beat? Like, the beat is fire. Who did this?" He said, "Rodrick Simmons." Like, oh man. I'm like, yo, this beat is inspiring. I was like, yo, yeah, our beat is not gonna be exactly like this, but we'll get it in the same vein. That
Crazy.
same, it was a crazy beat, man. So, like, what got you into the production side of things?
You talking about Soldier? I want to hear the beat. I don't even remember it. It's probably in the underground days.
Yeah.
As far as um producing, like, I have a kind of a split brain on this issue. So arranging, I have been doing for a very long time. I used to uh like Gerald, you was talking about the cassettes earlier. Like, I used to have the cassettes, and back then we had the machine where it had the A side and the B side. So I would like
Mhm.
jump on drums with a microphone in the room, record drums, kind of have the idea planned out in my head, then play that side and record organ with it, and flip the tape over it and dub the first joint, that kind of thing. And so arranging I've been doing for a while. And then when I got into the producing side of things, when so I was sheltered. Parents wouldn't let me listen to much outside of church.
Uh,
And
that was my parents too.
yeah, I used to always sneak away some kind of way. I would find myself listening to some type of hip hop, right? And through all the artists that I listened to, it was certain songs that they would have. Make a long story short, and later on, I found out that all those songs that were my favorite was by one producer, Jay Dilla.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so
Oh.
and so here's a guy that I didn't even know. Once I found out his name, I didn't know who he was. And then a friend of mine just started running down. He did this song, he did that. I'm like, that's all the joints I like, you know?
Yeah, he nasty.
Yeah. So that kind of pushed me into producing. And then on the other side, on the more musical side of things, as far as musician, artist, it was Tony Tone, soul stuff, and Quincy Jones. I loved a lot, and then a lot of movie type stuff, like scoring
Mm.
of movies and stuff
Movie
like that.
scores. Yeah.
They
Nice.
they they like pulled something in me and it's like, yo, especially like the melody lines and the repetitiveness of how they would take one idea and stretch it in many different ways.
Mm.
Um, I was really like inspired by that, and it became a part of my approach. And so producing, I was like, I guess I could give it a shot and try to do that. But at the time, I wasn't produced. I was just making beats for people like Soldier. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
got
Like,
you.
yeah.
Bro, check it, check it. I'm gonna throw this in there too. And this is recent. I don't I did I was on a trip. I was driving. We was doing a driving trip, and I don't know what I was on, whether it was Apple Music or something like that. I got to one of your uh CDs, or not CDs, but like sections. And bro, I don't know what this was. It was just a beat. And I'm like, oh man, I'm rapping, right? I'm in the car driving. I'm rapping to it. I'm freestyling, right? I'm not a freestyle guy, but like the way my method is weird. I just kind of put a flow together because I like flows, and I'm just mumbling, and I'm just going back and back and back. My wife's like, yo, why you keep playing this? I'm like, yo, you hear this? It was
Crazy.
your joint.
That's crazy, man.
Hey, look, when I find it, I'm gonna have to send it to you.
Please do, because I'm
I,
curious. Like,
I'm
what
like,
was that?
yo, this is crazy. So
Hmm.
listen, I know you had now in the first half, you were saying something about executing, man. I wasn't executing. Now, you were playing, I saw with um what's his name? Not Raphael. Um Help me out. I'm
Who
having
you
a
talking
brain
about?
fart. Say it again.
I don't know who you talking
Oh,
about.
D'Angelo?
D'Angelo.
D'Angelo?
Oh,
D'Angelo.
of
Okay.
So,
course.
so now I saw you playing with D'Angelo. You had to have been executing to be able to get on the team with them. How did you get that? What was that like for you? What was that experience like? And did that open doors to other things, or was it another door that opened up to get to him?
Interesting to talk about. I'm gonna write a book at some point or a movie. Um, man, before I get to that, I'll just tell you this. I was found got my music start in the industry with Raphael Sadiq through MySpace. Like I put a couple
Oh,
songs on there, and you remember
Yeah.
MySpace back in the day?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you're the one who told me about it.
Yeah. Oh,
You're the one
that's
that said, hey,
crazy.
MySpace. That's when it
Dang, I didn't know that. I don't even remember that. That's crazy. So
Yeah, I
he
remember
heard
it.
a
Yeah.
couple joints that I did, and I saw he had a page, and I literally was testing out, like, I wonder if this really Raphael Sadiq. So I messaged him, and I dropped a couple names that I knew he knew. Like the one name in particular was a guitar player named Eric Walls, who I
Mm,
knew from playing with him in North Carolina, and I knew
Mm.
he was playing with Sadiq. So I was like, see if he know who Eric is, and that'll let me know if this is really him, if he even
Yeah.
responds. He
Yeah.
responded. He was like, "Yeah, which Eric you talking about?" Then he listed a couple of Erics, and Eric Walls was one of them. So I was like, "That's really him." So so but in that same reply, he was like, "Yeah, but them tracks though, like that's you." So make long story short, that's what we went back and forth on conversations of that, and he gave me my start. Years later, many years later, I got a call from a friend who was in that camp with when I was touring with Josh Stone, who Raphael Sadiq put in place. That was my first gig. And this guy was asking me if I knew someone who knew how to run Ableton and would do like stagehand stuff, production line, that kind of thing. And I said, I know how to run state. I know how to run Ableton a little bit, you know.
Enough to
Yeah.
get this gig.
Yeah. I still didn't know what the gig was for.
Mm.
So
Oh, wow.
ultimately, another friend of mine who I had just met through the internet, he put up a picture of the rig that the cat was playing on D'Angelo tour. And I commented on the rig. I was like, yo, I got that same box right there. It was a specific thing, which was a Muse receptor, right? And
Mm.
not many people know what that is, you know. And he hit me back, was like, yo, the guy who's playing, his name was Pookie. The person who I'm speaking of that I was communicating with about the picture, his name is Jermaine Holmes. And Jermaine told me that Pookie said, like, ain't a lot of people know about what that is. So, make a long story short, all these components came together. The person who hit me up about Ableton and all of that talked to Jermaine, and they kind of put the story together. And it's like, so they put me on ultimately to be the
Wow.
keyboard. What is the name of it? His assistant, whatever the word is, I can't think right now. And so that's how I got the gig, being in charge of the Ableton rig and being the roadie. I forgot the name is right now, but I was keyboard roadie. To answer your question, I got fired from that gig as the roadie.
What?
Whoa, wait.
I
Do
don't.
tell. Do tell.
Yeah,
We
I
got
want to know
time.
this story.
We got
Go
time.
ahead. Go
Do
ahead.
tell. I
So,
got a few minutes.
Man, I wasn't moving fast enough. I think that the guy who hired me, I'm gonna try my best to, you know, be upright in this moment and not say names where
Mm.
it might be a negative light. But the guy who was over me at the time, I didn't move fast enough for him, and the musicians and the artists liked me too much. And he knew my background as a musician. As a matter of fact, before he hired me, he wanted to make sure I knew this ain't a musician gig. Your responsibility is going to be on the truck, packing the truck, making sure everything run. Well, I did that effortlessly. No problems. Nobody ever had issues. If they did, they didn't tell me, but they would always call me to the band room and all that, kicking it, having conversations. Well, one mishap happened, and that is too long of a story to tell here, but it was my fault. Something happened. And I could tell that day he was like, got him. I got a reason to send him home. Ultimately, he fired me. And he said, I'm gonna let you go. We finished the leg out, the US leg. And when they went overseas, I didn't go with them. I went home. He's the one who had to call me back to hire me as a keyboard player for the gig because something happened where the current keyboard player had to leave. And it was in the middle of the tour. They didn't know what they was going to do. And so the artists, and I keep saying the artists like y'all know what I'm talking about. D'Angelo had conversations with some of the bands and they decided to put me on. And so I had to learn the whole show. Let me say this because it's very important. Because I am who I am and I wanted to be good at the job, I couldn't make the current keyboard player feel uncomfortable. We was cool, we was rocking it, but just to make sure there's no question of like if I'm trying to steal your gig or if I'm trying to, you know, I didn't have any of that energy. So I went overboard in not being present when they was playing unless he needed me for something. So I did not know this show. And I had to learn it on the plane ride in a day before I hit North Sea Jazz Festival as my first show.
Dang.
And
Sweating bullets.
man, that's the first time I ever been nervous, like on a stage like that.
Wow.
Wow.
And I had a 45-minute run through with Pino Palladino and Isaiah Sharkey before we hit the stage. And the greatest advice Sharkey ever gave, he's like, if you don't know it, don't play it.
That's kind of cut and dry. Hey, don't know it, don't play it.
But after the show, after that hit, the tour manager, Alan Lees, this is the guy who, you know, kind of dealt with Prince and James Brown, all this kind of stuff. This man kissed me on my forehead. like you just saved this tour. And I'm so out of it. I'm tired. What I didn't tell you is my wife was pregnant with my
Mm,
youngest son at
Wow.
the time. There's a lot of stressful things going on that may even be reasons why I that time was just so tumultuous, like just ah,
Mm.
felt crazy. But yeah, I'm
bro.
long with it, bro.
So I just want to get this straight. You originally got hired to run Ableton and kind of to be the a keyboard technician. Okay. And you got fired for whatever reason, but then they had to call you back. The same person that fired you. Look, all right, I want the audience to really cue in, right? The same person that fired you had to call you, and it had to specifically be him to call you and say, "Hey, yeah, I know we let you go. I know I'm the one that said it, but uh, can you come and be the keyboardist for us? Because our keyboardist had to leave. Can you play now?" Before you say something, Roderick, I just want to say this, and I'm not trying to be churchy or spiritual or nothing like that. I'm just saying what you do in the dark, right? And I'm just meaning like you got a craft, you got a gift, you put your effort into it, you work hard at it, right? It may seem like nobody sees what you're doing, nobody cares, you ain't getting nowhere, but
Yeah.
it'll be situations similar to this one where they just gotta call you back. He didn't call you back because he liked you. He called you back because he knew you were able to do it. He knew, I'm sure they heard you play because they didn't want to just call you back. He's a keyboard technician. Yeah, but the other guy, because they probably could have called somebody else, but they called you.
Man, you're hitting on so many notes. Um, but it's something you just don't know. So that's why you're not correct in this way. Um, it had everything to do with the way I am as a person. Like the decisions that we make are important on and off the stage.
Mm,
And to your point though, I think like D'Angelo heard me. This is you say you don't want to be churchy or spiritual. I'm very spiritual, but I definitely don't want to seem churchy. But at the same time, I am who I am, right? So D heard me one
Mm.
day in a rehearsal. He walked in, and I didn't know he was walking in. Everybody else kind of mannerisms start to change in ways. It's like they was waiting on this because they knew I could play, but
mm.
Mm.
they was waiting for
They
him to
wanted
hear
him
me.
to hear you. Yeah.
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 So by the time I see him, he's right beside me on the CP. And I looked over and something inside me went like kind of jump because I wasn't there for that. And I was trying to make a point of it. Like I didn't want to be seen as a musician. I wanted to get this job done. Like I just wanted to keep it upright. And to be
Yeah.
honest,
Right.
like dealing with him, it's only certain like entities that I wanted to work with him in anyway, studio wise. And so
Mm.
when I saw him, like I went against what I felt. I got a bad habit of listening to God. Like he's like, you better keep playing. Like, and so I kept playing, and then I start playing his style to him, and he cheesed or whatever. He leaned on the piano. He's like, yeah, I got to get you back there playing with Pookie. And in that moment, I said to him, I kind of feel some kind of way about it. But I said, man, I'm not here for that. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, I could have switched right then and there. I could have been playing with it, but that's not how God wanted things to happen. But I'm saying all of this to you so you know, even when that man fired me, I smiled the whole time he was talking to me because I was like, okay, cool. And he even saw the energy that I had and tried to dig in even more because he wasn't offensive when he started, but it wasn't bothering me, you know, while he was having the conversation because I wouldn't let him. I said, I hear what you're saying. I understand. I wish y'all the best. And I went home and I didn't feel no kind of way because at that point I felt like God allowed me to go out here and meet the people I needed to meet and just rub elbows with who I needed to rub elbows with. Of course, I didn't know I was going to be playing like 3 weeks later.
But you know
On
what?
the,
You know what, Rodrick? I ain't mean to cut you off.
it's all good.
What you're saying is validating more of what I said.
You were saying exactly.
Because and I'll say it like this and I'll make it quick. JR knows me. JR's like this too. Wherever I go, right? Because you get like you can't turn off your gift. And what I mean by that is wherever you go, right? You like me, I like sound and I hate being in a place where the sound is not right. So something's in me. I just want to fix it. That's all I want to do. I ain't trying to do nothing else. And if it's somebody else on the, let's say they're on the sound and they don't really know what to do, right? Let's say I'm in the church and they don't know what to do. I'll go and assist. But it'll be people that sees that and they see the passion. I ain't trying to take nobody's spot. I ain't trying to do none of that. I just want the sound to be right. Right. That's what I hear when you say what you saying. You're just playing. You ain't there for that. You just playing, right? So what I would say, man, be you. You're not
Absolutely.
trying to do that. But I feel like the manufacturer sets things up because I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah, I want to add to it. To the
Like let's bring up a scripture, a Bible verse, Genesis, right? Where God displayed Eve in front of Adam, right? And when Adam saw Eve, like, wow, fresh my firstborn, right? We know the scripture. I feel like God does that with us. He'll display it, right? Just so the right people can see it, hear it, whatever they need to do. And now it's like dropping seeds. And now it's like, oh, now we know who to call when we need this type of thing.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Go ahead, JR.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as a purpose. It was destined. And every time to move to the next phase, something bad has to happen in order for that next thing to happen.
And it's not bad.
I think, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? To other people may seem bad, but oftentimes it's just a shift that seems like it's a hard move or whatever the case it may be. But it always seemed like that was purpose to open that door for Rodrick to be Rodrick, because let's say that they didn't call you back. You think somebody else would have called you from that group, or someone else would have called you? But I think this was just a setup for something else.
I hear that well.
For your life, not for them what they did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
No, I feel everything you're saying. I will say this. I pride myself in just moving a certain way. And as many mistakes as I make, like I don't regret how I treat anybody. That's the part. Like I've been rushed in many situations to not mingle with somebody who in the musician circle is probably less than or whatever. I don't be caring about none of that because I'm a man just like you a man. If my talents are at the level they are, they haven't always been there. And really the way I think about it might not be conducive to this platform, but it really don't matter. What matters is how we treat people. Who are we? Me, I have a very, 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 very spiritual life. Everything I do is centered around my relationship with God, and I listen to him when he speaks, or her if you're on that. But I listen to what's speaking to me, and I pay attention. Sometimes it feels like in the moment it's to my detriment because I don't understand a plan that's laid out for me while I have to go through it. The valley work is ridiculous when I'm trying to be on the mountaintop. And so I don't understand all of these things that I have to go through, but I've tricked myself or something just to listen. And so a lot of times you may seem crazy, or when you talk about somebody else calling me, I cannot count how many gigs I have turned down. And days come where I'm like, you idiot. You could have did this, your bank account would look a little different. You know what I'm saying? Like the things you're trying to do now might be easier if you did this. But ultimately I don't regret anything. Because like JR said, purpose for sure. And I am glad to say that however life ends for me, thus far, I'm happy with listening to God and with the results I'm getting.
Can never go wrong with that. Speaking of listening to God, now
Yeah.
I listened to Dorinda Clark Cole, a song produced by Rodrick.
Mm.
How did you get that? Now I know this is Kojic, and I know she's in the Kojic circle, but how'd you get that? Because when that came out, man, we was blasting that joint every time. How'd you
Yeah,
get
that I'm trying to be short on this one. One of my favorite people in the world, her name is Natalie Wilson. And her SOP, I'm pretty sure y'all know who that is.
Oh yeah.
Well, I spent some time with her throughout the years. I had a few good recordings with her. She's also, excuse me, god sister to my wife. And so we were working on my wife's project, and we wanted to use one of Natalie's songs. We wanted to redo it, which was called Liquid Prayers. And so we sent her what we did. Well, she sent it to her producer at the time, Joe Flip Wilson. And the story that's told to me, you know Joe.
Joe Flip, yeah.
Yeah, the story that's told to me is he was going crazy on who did this, which, man, if I could just take my time and say this, means so much to me because he produced the first version of it. So for him to even acknowledge a different rendition of something that he curated, and he couldn't have been faking that. But it also shows like a selflessness of himself. But because of that, he reached out to me, said, "Yo, I got this going on. I got this going on. And we need to work." I was like, "Are you kidding? Do you know who you are to me?" And he called me out for the Dorinda sessions. And yeah, the rest is that. I did that week. I did, I think 14 songs in like 4 days.
Woo.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so there was
I
marveling
saw
over
some
my.
video footage of that.
Yeah, I put out a little bit. There's people like Gerald Haddon.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not about to get in trouble calling names, but one that I will call out is LaShawn Daniels was there. And that's when I met him. And even in that time, the small amount of time, it was so much that he spoke to me, and we even planned to work together. And I'm just so regretful that it didn't happen while he was still living with us. But I have those memories to cherish. And a part of that was working with him on Dorinda stuff, But the song you probably talking about is Bless This House.
Yeah.
Which was a single. Yeah.
Right.
But I did.
That's it.
So you did 14 songs?
Yeah, of course. Only out of the 14, 3 of them that I produced solely got
on the album. Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah, I'll leave that there.
What's your workflow like? Like when you get in the studio with an artist, how do you approach working with that artist?
It was really about genres, very genre specific. This in one way I like to do my homework on knowing who I'm working with, like what their ranges are, what's their taste. So I like to have conversations before I even touch the keys. But the process itself on like, I don't really have a structure of what instrument I put down first. But I will say usually it's some type of a rhythm. So whether it just be me playing a solo melody on a guitar or a drum beat, whatever, some type of rhythm to establish the flow of tempo. And then the rest is just like whatever's destined for that moment.
Nice. Listen, I know we could dive into a whole lot of stuff, but we just don't have the time. But like, tell us what you got going on right now. Like what you into, what's happening with you. And shout out to the music you and your wife doing too.
Thank you. Absolutely. Natasha Gray, who's phenomenal. Well, did her album. It's been out for a year now, Reminders. And then we recorded, we released this joint that we did at the crib called At the Crib. And it's Reminders at the Crib. We released that in January. You can see that on YouTube, Natasha Gray. For me, what I'm working on currently right now, I think what I'm most excited about is my collaborations with an artist named Benny Starr, hip hop artist. Working
Okay.
on some music with him, and then my band, the 420s, who are all locally here from Charleston area. And then my personal project, I can't really get into detail what it's going to be because it's kind of different. I'm still curating what it's going to be because everybody says this going to be different. um, but ultimately, it's different than anything I've ever done because I'm trying to wear so many hats. So what I can tell you is it will be an
Mm,
audio and visual.
Mm,
That's
mm.
what I could share. And to me, it's
nice.
like if I die after this, I'm good. That's how I feel. This is the first time I've ever
Wow.
felt this way about my own stuff. Like usually, like I got an album out called Zero Point Energy. I threw it together. This right here, I'm taking my time and I'm actually investing in me, putting my best foot forward, which I kind of take the shorts on because as a producer, you take the number two seat because you want the artist to be pleased. So for
Yeah.
me, stepping in the artist
Mm.
role, it's kind of different territory, and I'm enjoying the process.
Nice. Nice. So look, man, this is my last question I have. Um I listening to some of your music, your sound is definitely what I would call different, but I want you to describe what makes you different from, let's say, the let's say in the hip hop. What would make you different from the average hip hop person as far as music?
I don't know, man. Every genre that I do, I approach it from a soul perspective. So even as it pertains to that, I see myself as a soul artist. Even if we strictly doing the Christian genre, CCM or gospel, um, which I got some stuff coming out soon, hopefully, with some prominent Christian artists. Um, they always say this, and I never really thought about it until as of late. But there's man, there's so much soul in this. That's the thing. There's a common thread that I hear as a response after we do something. Like, man, there's so much soul in this, and so like that's what I think I'm worried about. Like, I want to touch someone's soul. I'm not afraid to cry. You know what I'm saying? I don't do it often, but the last few times that I have, it's been God speaking to me through what I'm playing, and like I want to live there, and so that I try to push that. It's got to mean something to me, and a lot of times that comes through chord progressions. So I guess to answer your question would be my intent on the elements of what I'm doing is more than just feel good music. Like I want it to nurture you, I want it to be medicine, I want it to taste good, all that. But it ultimately has to be progressive.
Good. JR, anything else, brother?
I got two things. One, I'm still pumping "Mirror Mirror" in my car off Apple Music.
That's fire.
So,
Except the rap.
and the other thing, you see that logo in the background?
Where
Can you see that?
I can
You see
barely
that
see
logo on
it.
the
I can see
screen?
a little bit. I can't make it
Well, it's
out.
a time.
I'm half
Well,
blind.
it's a timeless logo. And if you need us for anything, just you can call us if you need us to.
No doubt.
No,
Heard you.
but I'm just messing, man. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on, man, and being a blessing to our podcast, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and also playing with you too, man. So, y'all, this is Rodrick, man, the world's dopest musician and producer. Don't let him twist your mind, but Rodrick is dope, y'all.
And I appreciate the love I get. Um, but even that, like I'm seen as a producer and I want to be known as a creator, but more so in the way of curating from the artist's perspective. So that's what I'm working on right now, like changing the perception about me, because ultimately I know it's my fault. Of yeah, yeah, yeah. But I do appreciate the sentiments.
Hey, how can
Mhm.
you be reached, Roderick? If anybody wanted to reach out to you, for beats
Don't
or production or help or what?
don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, like right now, it'll be in the near future that I'll have that kind of stuff in place. But I'm trying to, like I said, I'm not trying to be funny. Like intentionally, I'm trying to work on myself for the first time, and so I'm not really accepting a lot of production things. I turn a lot of things down, and it's hurtful. But like I just did my mother's project and my wife's project. I think I'm good for a minute. My kids is knocking on me like, yo, we need one too. But they fire too. I can't wait for the world. My youngest son, we gotta go. My fault. We gotta go. But yeah, like I'm working on me right now. So I would hope that everybody, like keep me in the prayers, give me good energy, think about me, and check out like Facebook and Instagram. I'm definitely not hard to talk to, but I may be hard to reach because they say I don't answer my phone, that kind of stuff. They say things like, it's gonna rain or snow today if you respond.
Hey, but
What do
listen, we're glad that we got to get you on the platform. It look outside. Is it raining, snowing in Charleston? But we got you, man. So we appreciate it, man. We appreciate the time. So listen, y'all. This is Rodrick. Again, follow him social platforms. Look out for his music. Check out his Natasha Gray. And just get to know him. He's a good brother, humble brother, very gifted, very blessed, and we're very glad that he blessed our platform. So listen, I go by the name of Gabriel Ori. This is my business partner,
JR.
and look, we out as the producer.